She had always been a constant source of frustration, an unshakable nuisance in my life, never letting anything be easy or simple. Until that day, when my husband spat out words that cut deeper than any blade could, I questioned if he was even human at all. The bitterness in his tone, the emptiness behind his eyes, it made me shiver. He wasn't just failing as a parent. He was failing as a person entirely. "I'm sorry." "I will avenge you," I declared, standing before the somber funeral attendees, reading the letter my daughter had left behind. Her words echoed in my mind, fierce and full of hope even as her life had been cut short. My husband's face turned ashen, his disbelief and shock mirrored in every line. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" An angry voice boomed behind me, my father-in-law's, sudden and sharp. The tension in the air was unbearable. The moment had come. The revenge was about to begin. "My name is Elma. I am 40 years old, a housewife, and I have been married to Carl for 15 years. We first met in high school, in our sophomore year, as classmates. Being desk mates gave us the chance to talk, to laugh, to discover shared interests. Working together on a school festival project, we grew closer, and after the festival ended, he confessed his feelings. We started dating, and our bond deepened as we navigated through college together. Even when life got busy after graduation, Carl moving into his own apartment, both of us starting our careers, we made time for dates, for small dinners and for occasional getaways. Once we began earning more, we traveled whenever holidays allowed, exploring new cities and creating memories we both cherished. 3 years into our working lives, we decided to marry. We had saved enough for a wedding, were established in our careers, and felt ready to take that next step. Having dated since high school, we knew each other's families well, making visits and introductions seamless. Our wedding was full of laughter, friends, and classmates who celebrated our union with joy. Marriage itself felt exciting and real. Even after over 8 years together, the thrill of calling myself Mrs. Carl, of building a life together, never faded. 3 years into our marriage, our daughter Rosa was born. "Wow, she looks like an angel." "So cute," Carl exclaimed, cradling our newborn. "I'll work my butt off to protect our family," he added, full of determination. "Thank you." "Be our rock," I said, touched by his promise. "You can count on me," he assured, confident and steady. With Rosa in our lives, Carl seemed larger than life, a pillar of reliability. After her birth, I chose to work part-time at his company to spend more time with her. Every milestone, her first crawl, her first steps, was a small victory, moments I documented tirelessly. Carl would often watch with a tinge of regret in his eyes, wishing he could be present for every moment. Our days were blissful, filled with play, laughter, and joy as we explored the world with our daughter, but everything changed when Rosa was in 3rd grade. I was working part-time when the call came from the hospital. She had collapsed during class. Panic took over as I rushed to her side. Carl left work early to meet me at the hospital, both of us listening in stunned silence as the doctor delivered the worst news imaginable. Rosa had a rare, incurable disease. "Depending on treatment, she has about a year to live," the doctor said. My mind went blank. My daughter, my precious Rosa, had a disease we could not cure. We could only manage symptoms, but the progression was inevitable. Heartbroken and bewildered, I asked myself why fate would be so cruel. Why she, a child full of life, had to suffer this. As months passed, Rosa grew weaker. Within 6 months, she struggled to walk and could no longer attend school. Our days became hospital visits and hours spent lying at home, monitoring her every move. Eventually, she became bedridden. I quit my part-time job to care for her full-time, knowing nothing could be left to chance. My focus was entirely on her survival, but during this time, Carl began to change. His demeanor darkened. He became irritable and short-tempered at home. "Honey, you're home. Dinner's ready," I would say cheerfully. "Yeah, why fish?" He'd snap. "Well, it was on sale today," I explained gently. "Are you kidding me? I'm tired from work, and you serve fish?" He grumbled. "I'm sorry," I murmured, trying to keep the peace. He'd complain, criticize, and scowl at meals, leaving the house tense. When he was home, I felt anxious, exhausted by his presence. When he wasn't, I felt relief, even though loneliness crept in. His attention toward Rosa dwindled. Talk to Rosa more, I would ask. I'm tired. You handle her during the day. That's enough, he replied coldly. Anything more is coddling. Coddling? My daughter was fighting for her life, living far beyond what doctors had predicted. Why couldn't he appreciate her strength? Over time, he began staying out overnight more frequently, claiming work obligations, though I doubted his stories. His absence brought a strange relief, even as it deepened the emptiness of our home. Our conversations dwindled, replaced with awkward silences. Rosa noticed. Did you and Dad fall out? She asked one evening. Not at all. Dad's just busy with work, I reassured her. Did Dad start disliking me after I got sick? She persisted. No, never. He can't hate you. Don't worry, I said. Though my heart ached at her concern. After putting Rosa to bed, I felt a surge of responsibility. I had to act. Why am I causing her worry like this? I thought, she's fighting for her life and I'm letting her carry this burden. When Carl came home, I gathered my courage. Hey, Rosa feels lonely. She wonders if you started disliking her after she got sick, I said quietly. Carl, surprised, finally looked at me. Yes, she did, he asked reluctantly. Even a little talk would help. She survived beyond what was expected. Let's make sure neither of you has regrets, I said firmly. I got it.
He muttered BEG, the next day was Sunday.
I deliberately gave him time with Rosa while I went out for a few hours. When I returned, I asked, Did you get to talk to Rosa? Yeah, we talked about various things, he said. That's good, I replied, relieved it was for her sake. But then he started getting ready to leave again. Huh? Are you going somewhere? I asked. I'm going out to eat with a friend, he said. I've done my part by talking to Rosa. Now it's your turn to let me go. I stared, confused. Let him go. What did that mean? Nothing seemed resolved. Perhaps he was just going through the motions. I decided to stop expecting anything from him. My focus shifted entirely to Rosa. I cherished every conversation, every smile, every fleeting moment. Then one day, Carl returned in a bad mood. Hey, get dinner ready quickly, okay?
He barked. I had stopped trying to argue or reason with him.
So I quietly prepared dinner and placed it in front of him, and was about to go to our daughter's room. When he stopped me, hey, pack a week's worth of clothes in the duffel bag. I've got a business trip, Macazure. You pack all the essentials like a razor too. He said, then went to take a bath without even clearing his déchets. Do I have to do this? But surely if bag wasn't packed by the time He get out of the bath, he would get pretty mad, and if he raised his voice, it would worry. Our daughter, if she woke up Eastside and went into his room to pack clothes into the duffel bag, well, it's a relief. He'll be gone on a business trip for a week. With him gone, I can relax. I packed the bag and left it in his room. The next morning, my husband left without thanking me or saying anything. That annoyed me, but I decided to let myself do as I please. First, equal my parents to come and see our daughter if my husband is away for a week. My folks can stay over without any worry. They seemed torn happy to see their granddaughter, but saddened to see her bedridden. They were all smiles in front of her, but once she fell asleep, their faces were filled with pain and loneliness. It really is unfair of God, they said. Why couldn't it be an old-timer like me, instead of a good kid like Rosa? My parents stayed until the very last minute before my husband was due back. Rosa had been happy to talk to her grandparents after so long. As time went on, Rosa's condition worsened, and she had to be hospitalized. I was overcome with fear that it might be soon. I visited her in the hospital every day, but my husband never came to visit. Instead, when returned home early, he would send me angry messages on WhatsApp, upset about not having dinner ready. I was beyond sighing at this point. I thought it would be better if I didn't have a husband who couldn't cherish his own daughter, but without him working, I couldn't spend all this time with her, as painful as it was to admit his workload. These moments with her, not only my parents but also my in-laws, Camito visit her often at the hospital. Rosa always seemed happy when someone came to see her. We even celebrated her 12th birthday in the hospital room, where the nurse prepared a cake and we all celebrated together. But about a month after her birthday, Rosa's condition worsened and she passed away. I was devastated. and broke down crying. No matter how much I had braced myself, the reality shattered my emotions. My parents tried to comfort me, but they ended up crying with me. Still, we had to see Rosie off properly together with my parents. I arranged and prepared for the funeral. There were things I had to do all for Rosa. I managed to hold back my tears and proceed with the funeral arrangements. We arrived at the funeral parlor early before the other mirrors. My husband was irritable about having to get up early after coming back from his business trip the day before. It was infuriating. He hadn't been reachable when Rosa passed away, and he had the gall to say I was on a business trip. Even if you had contacted me, I could have made it back. He tried to light a cigarette in frustration. Go to the smoking area, please, I said sharply. He looked irritated after I called him out, standing by the coffin on his way to smoke. He said something awful to our sleeping daughter. You were such a pain always in my way, right to the, and my husband spat out such things as if they were nothing. Is he really human? He's the worst, not just as a parent, but as a person. I was rendered speechless by the horrible things my husband said. I couldn't move from the spot until my husband walked towards the smoking area. When I came to, I went straight to the coffin. I'm sorry, I will take revenge in your place, I told my daughter, stealing myself with determination I could never forgive him. Then the funeral began. Unbelievably, my husband, who had just said such terrible things, pretended talkery in front of the relatives, saying Rose's name as tears streamed down his face. I knew it was an act because I saw him apply eye drops before walking up to the coffin. The relatives, not knowing any better, misunderstood and started crying to unforgivable. I would reveal his true nature no matter what. As the funeral was drawing to a close, it was time to read the letter left by my daughter. What, there's a letter? My husband was clearly surprised, not having known about it. Yes, there is. I have to properly convey the words she left behind to everyone. I stood before the funeral attendees and began to read my daughter's letter aloud at the microphone. The letter was mostly words of gratitude to me for the care I had given her. With each word I read, tears came, and I choked up. The relatives also started to cry along. As I got to the part about my husband, I took a deep breath to dad. I as the tears naturally stopped again. Smong, who was always by my side, you seemed to avoid coming home, as if you were avoiding us even when you came home. All I could hear was your voice yelling at her in my room. Dad used to make time to play with me when I was little, taking me on Dravesto, all sorts of places. But after I got sick and became bedridden, Dad seemed like a completely different person. Mom always pretended to be strong in front of me, but I could tell she was really struggling with how Dad was behaving at me, thinking maybe it was my fault things turned out this way, but it seems that wasn't the case. Remember the day Mom went shopping, and it was just Dad and me at home. You came to my room and talked to me then, maybe because Mom asked you to. I was so happy, it felt like if old Dad had come back. But then, thinking I was asleep, you took a phone call. You were talking to a woman I don't know. I heard everything. You were planning a week-long trip. Did you enjoy the Disney trip you went on behind our backs? And you told that woman on the phone that you loved her. Hearing that, I realized you don't care about Mom or me anymore. So please, after a known divorce, Mom, don't make her unhappy anymore. Let her be free from you. When I finished editing the letter, the room was buzzing. Me husband stood there pale as a ghost. What the hell are you doing? My father-in-law's angry voice BMD. The revenge had begun. My husband just stood there speechless, stuttering. My father-in-law grabbed him by the collar and yelled, "You fool," before striking him across the face. My husband staggering denied the affair, saying it's not what it looks like. There must be some mistake. What's the mistake? Rosa would never leave it. I haven't had an affair. My husband stuck to his denials, holding the microphone. I told him I've already caught you. Stop with the futile resistance. Yes, I had seen my daughter's letter beforehand and hired a private investigator. I had gathered plenty of evidence of my husband's affair. I show it photo on my smartphone to everyone at the funeral. All the relative attending glared at my husband. How could you go on an affair trip when your own child's life was hanging by a thread? You finished as a human being. I didn't raise you to be such a terrible dolt. Mom, Dad, you're no son of our Sanamore. We disown you. How could you? My husband just collapsed on the spot. I was just trying to escape the pain. I didn't want to face the reality that my daughter had become like that. What was even saying? That's no excuse for having an affair. And if that were true, you would have Spent more time with Rosa than lie now when we come so far. I heard from your parents you were asking them for money for Rosa's medical expenses. Because it was so costly and never heard a word about it, that means you were using the money your parents sent for your own pleasure, right? You exploited your daughter's illness to collect money. And have an affair, didn't you? Don't give me that. How dare you dosic low things and then talk about suffering. Rosa was the one suffering the most, fighting desperately to survive illness. To have a father like you, Rosa was the one to be pied. You're not wanted at this funeral. Get out of here right now. I shouted at my husband with all my might. He fell on his butt, let off asthma yelp, and then hurriedly ran away from the place. After that I reset and continued with my daughter's funeral. After it was over, my in-laws apologetic plea and offered to help with the divorce and aliment in any way they could. I proceeded with the divorce and mandate aliment through a lawyer introduced by my father-in-law, but that wasn't enough for me, so I took the house me husband had bought, and I also told everyone at his workplace about what he had done. My ex-husband, who had made Ito the position of manager, quickly lost all credibility at the company and was demoted and sent to work in a remote location. He asked his affair partner to come with him, but she promptly dumped him, saying she had no interest in a man without money. In the end, to his affair partner, my ex-husband was just a rich play thing. My ex-husband was abandoned by his parents and relative. Ives left to work alone in a distant place, living a lonely life in his house. It's all Wave deserves, and honestly, I'd like to beat him up to my heart's content if I could. Meanwhile, I sold the house I got from my ex-husband and moved back to my parents' house with the alimony from my ex-husband and his affair partner. I had a considerable amount of money. I didn't feel like working for a while after my daughter passed away, but gradually I started to think more positively and began working part-time at a cafe near my parents' house. Mom's homemade cake. Rosa loves it so much. I remember my daughter saying that now. I bake sweets every day while working at the cafe and honing my pastry skills. I hope to one day serve my own creations on the menu, just like how my daughter was happy eating my cake. I want to see Samuel smiling while eating my cake for my daughter's sake. I have to live my life to the fullest with that thought. I put my all into working towards my dream totally.